Hi, I'm Iris Matthews, a romance author, and today I presented my Popular Culture Association paper that I came to New Orleans to deliver and present on. And I didn't get to record that live, but I thought I might just read it for you too. So here it goes. Today I'm here to talk about shifts in the way masculinity is depicted in romance literature, especially the movement from a dominant brand of masculinity to a variety of representations that are more holistic, complex, and healthy. While romance has made space for a wider range of gender depictions, there remain texts that emphasize the heroine's role in healing the hero, rather than modeling heroes that grow, heal, and transform themselves prior to meeting their counterparts. In this paper, I examine one interlinked series written by Lisa Kleypas, where she represents such a shift. By the end, we will decide if this hero is compelling enough to carry a full-length novel. Before we begin, let's acknowledge that gender expression exists because of social constructs, and masculinity resides on a spectrum, along with other gender expressions. Men born or identifying thusly need not be tough guys to be strong, they need not be territorial to be protectors, they need not be handy to be helpful, and they need not be authoritarian to be attractive. In fact, the more romance models decent men as desirable, the more we can discard that old idiom that nice guys finish last. What is meant by the term masculinity? Any societal expectations set upon men, boys, and those who find themselves in a state of manhood, including female masculinity. Although it is also an ever-changing cultural perception, and not all forms of masculinity are hegemonic or prized. In the 2020 piece, Healing Toxic Masculinity in Sweatpants Season, Jonathan A. Allen helpfully summarizes the history of the phrase toxic masculinity, so I won't rehash that work here. Rather, I'd like to emphasize that masculinity embodies much of what society romanticizes, both good and problematic. But the scales can tip into exaggerated standards. As Allen points out, not all heroes are toxic or alpha, but this kind of hero has a rather important role in the history of the genre. But times have changed, and it is easier to find a range of masculine representations now. Unwittingly, a 2014 Onion article, "Beautiful Cinnamon Roll, Too Good for This World, Too Pure," launched a slogan for sweet romantic heroes as counterparts to alpha heroes that too often demonstrated toxic masculinity. In a June 2023 Publishers Weekly article, "Sweet Cinnamon Roll Heroes" by Pooja Makajini, this type of lead is defined. A cinnamon roll is a sweet, supportive, and kind hero, and has come to represent a subgenre of books that push back on toxic masculinity. More readers are asking for cinnamon rolls and golden retrievers, says Caitlin Olson, senior editor of Atria. The latter refers to a romantic lead with a warm, floppy energy and positive attitude. We are seeing changing views on identity and masculinity and consent in the larger population, and readers are looking for romance novels to reflect what they're seeing in the culture. But if we review the canon of popular romance studies, we'll find that sentimental heroes have long gotten a bland rap. This term comes from Jane Ann Krentz's 1992 text, "Dangerous Men and Adventurous Women," and was taken up by Pamela Regis in her 2003 work, "A Natural History of the Romance Novel." While Regis gives the sentimental hero some favorable regard, having said of him, he is still strong, virile, manly, a lion among men. but he is wounded physically, psychically, or emotionally. If the alpha hero must be tamed, the sentimental hero is hurt or damaged in some way, often emotionally, and the heroine must heal him. Regis looks far more favorably on the sentimental hero than Krentz herself, who stated he is thoroughly tamed from the start, one of her mildest aspersions. Then again, Krentz lauded the alpha male for his villainous nature and contributed to the toxicity of men portrayed in romance. We look to West and Ravenel. In 2015, just 1 year after that tongue-in-cheek Onion article about perfect pastries, Lisa Kleypas published Cold-Hearted Rake, the first book in what became her 7-book series, The Ravenels. West is not the main male protagonist of the novel, but he is a prominent secondary character. He makes his first appearance in the very second paragraph and has more page time than the hero in several middle chapters. Cold-Hearted Rake opens in 1875, solidly in the Victorian era, with the news that Devon, West's older brother, has abruptly inherited an earldom when their distant cousin, the recently married Lord Trenier, drunkenly climbed onto a horse and was thrown to his demise. He left his title, a widow, sisters, and a crumbling estate. Devon brings West along to assess all he has unwantedly gained. At the onset, both believe the best course of action is to dismantle the household in a hurry. These brothers are described as miscreants and amoral rakes, charming on the outside, conniving and cruel on the inside. Devon struggles with a violent temper, and West is a drunken layabout. The quintessential toxic males. And yet, Kleypas transforms both brothers throughout this novel. Devon falls for his cousin's widow, Kathleen, but West has no lover in this novel. In fact, it takes 5 books before he leads in the 2019 Devil's Daughter. So what propels the change in West if he isn't healed by a woman? Throughout the novel, West's brother awakens to the realization that, for the first time, people depend on him. Propelled by his desire for Kathleen, he initially shoulders the burden, alone. But in a critical scene, we see who initiates the change in the younger brother. West stood unmoving, pinning him with a baleful stare. Why is this happening? What has changed you? Did you think we were going to go through life completely unaltered? Devon asked. That we would occupy ourselves with nothing but selfish pleasures and trivial amusements? I was counting on it. Well, the unexpected happened. Don't trouble yourself over it. I've asked nothing of you. West's aggression weathered down to a core of resentment. He approached the desk, turned, and hoisted himself up, with effort, to sit next to Devon. Maybe you should, you stupid bastard. While it is West and Ravenel that pleads to be given responsibility and expectations for which to rise to, it is no simple task to reform a rake. And even with the proactive impetus, taming and healing are not instantaneous. After swallowing his pride, Devon does ask West for help in going to speak to the farmers and land tenants, but West overdrinks. And the morning of his first appointment, he is too drunk to ride a horse. Kathleen, the widow who lost her husband when he too tried to ride while inebriated, intervenes. Kathleen folded her arms across her chest. Why did you bother coming to Hampshire? I'm here to help my brother. You aren't helping anyone, she cried with incredulous disgust. Do you understand anything about the burden the new Lord Trenier has taken on? But instead of doing something to help, you've chosen to drink yourself silly and totter around like a selfish, lumping Idiot! Go back to London. You're of no use to anyone here. Blame me if you like." Turning, she walked away from him, throwing a few last words over her shoulder. "Perhaps someday you'll find someone who can save you from your excesses. Personally, I don't believe you're worth the effort." But West finds both the worth and the effort within himself. A few days after this encounter, he has sobered up. Together, he and Kathleen do visit the farmers, and he goes on to farm the land himself. Cleipus shows us that beneath all of West's irreverent bluster, his wastrel ways, and his tendency to drink away his days, he is a genuinely good-hearted man who just needed a reason. We look to Cold-Hearted Rape to see how the portrayal of one male has changed the narrative on healing. As romance shifts, we are seeing more men that are sweet, kind, and decent represented in the role of hero. In my opinion, this is for the better. But from a narrative perspective, are cinnamon roll heroes compelling enough to carry a romance novel? We turn now to West's love story, an enemies to lovers trope. In Devil's Daughter, we get the tale of another young widow, Phoebe, Lady Clare. She married her childhood sweetheart and had 2 boys with him, but he lost his battle with a wasting disease and left her bereft. 2 years later, she meets West Ravenel, a man she is predisposed to hate because he is none other than the childhood bully of her beloved. But upon actually meeting him, he is not just caring and tender-hearted with her and her son. He is apologetic, funny, and gentle. Plus, he's a hunk. This novel is not West's story of healing, rather is Phoebe's story of recovery and forgiveness. West doesn't need fully tamed nor fully healed in this book, as this work's already been accomplished. With that said, there's still an internal arc for his character. We do need a dark moment after all. He does need to open his heart to Phoebe and accept her love and forgiveness. He must overcome his fears that his past will tarnish his future and that of those he has come to adore. However, West again must find the will to take this leap from within. Phoebe does not spiral into despair. She rationally gives him the time and space he needs to recognize their enduring love. Perhaps this is the key, as Cleipus twice partners their once toxic males with a widow. That is certainly worthy of further exploration. In another classic Cleipus move, it is the external plotline that is paramount to the climax rather than the internal angst that pushes the pacing. There's a quieter, subtler dismantling of the barriers in Cleipus's most recent novels. From a 2020 interview with the author herself, Lisa Kleypas talks changing trends in romance. We glean why. I wrote my first novel when I was 16. Longhand on stationery paper you could buy by the pound. Back in those days, the typical romance heroine's journey often led her to submit and conform to traditional ideals. If she started out as a spirited vixen, she needed to be tamed, and the hero was the man for the job. And then she was rewarded with love, commitment, and security. Accordingly, in my early novels, the female protagonists were frequently thrown into peril and needed lots of rescuing, and I'm sorry to say the hero was pretty much always in charge. But my stories have changed as I have, just as the romance genre has developed to meet the evolving attitudes of its readers. Now the heroine is the one in charge, and her needs and goals are paramount. Shifts in sentimentalities have led readers to seek sentimental heroes who let their heroines be the star. While I don't have specific sales data from Devil's Daughter, the novel won the 2020 Audie award for Most Outstanding Romance Audiobook of the Year. And just this year, a poll by @Romancing the Data on Instagram, West Ravenel was ranked in the top 8 heroes amongst all of Lisa Kleypas's 32 historical male protagonists. Not too shabby for a sweet and supportive rake-turned farmer. In the Ravenel series, we find that highlighting the complexities of manhood and crafting deep characters whose circumstances provide intricate barriers can serve the narrative cravings of readers just as much as powerhouse males and plots that are built on the need to mend another. Romance literature has made space for a variety of complex masculinities and has given space to nuances of human nature. In doing so, it fulfills the multi-layered wants and desires of readers more than ever before. Thanks for listening to me read my paper. I appreciate you. Have a great day.